The chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court is fast-tracking an investigation into possible war crimes in Ukraine after receiving requests from 39 countries, including Canada. An advance team has left The Hague for the Ukraine region. Moving so fast is unprecedented for the court. To help us understand the implications, I'm joined by Payam Akhavan, a professor of international law at the University of Toronto and a former UN prosecutor. Professor, why do you think the head prosecutor is moving so fast?
Well, the invasion of Ukraine is a humanitarian disaster of unprecedented dimensions. And while the mandate of the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court is to investigate and prosecute international crimes, one aspect of that mandate is deterrence, basically to try and deter ongoing violations. So while there appears to be evidence that war crimes and possibly crimes against humanity are being committed, it's important also to signal to the perpetrators that the world is watching, that their conduct is going to be scrutinized, and that there may be a price to pay. And hopefully that will at least constrain some of the worst excesses that may be anticipated in the coming days.
There have been many reports already of attacks on civilians in Ukraine. Is an intentional attack on civilians a war crime?
Well, most certainly that is the most emphatic war crime, but also indiscriminate attacks are equally war crimes. If you're using weapons or methods of warfare that fail to distinguish between military targets and civilian population, that is also a war crime. And of course, the burden of proof is more exacting for establishing intentional attacks against civilian populations, but it's enough to show that the attacks were indiscriminate.
About the burden of proof, what is the threshold for laying charges of a war crime or a crime against humanity? What evidence will the investigators be looking for? Will they be interviewing witnesses?
Well, yes, witness testimony is always central to establishing such a case. Physical evidence, video footage. There are multiple sources that go to establishing a case beyond a reasonable doubt. In the case of crimes against humanity, of course, we're not dealing with isolated or random war crimes, but a widespread or systematic attack against the civilian population. So there has to be a significant volume of evidence which shows that these are in fact massive crimes that are being committed not just at a specific location at a specific time, but really spread across time and a wider geographic space.
The ICC is the only permanent international court designed to address genocide, wars of aggression, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. But neither Ukraine or Russia are members of the court. Does that matter?
Well, unlike, let's say, a Canadian court, international courts only have jurisdiction where a state has consented to that jurisdiction. The Ukraine made a declaration after the Russian invasion of Crimea in 2014, and it recognized the jurisdiction of the court. Russia has not. The basis for jurisdiction is that the crimes are being committed on the territory of the Ukraine. So the court has jurisdiction even if Russia has no obligation to cooperate. Nonetheless, the prosecutor's office will do what it has to and investigate the crimes, and whether states are willing to cooperate or not is an entirely different question.
Quick last question. Since Russia is not a member of the court, and we should point out neither is the United States, it has no legal duty then to turn over its people for prosecution. So could Vladimir Putin, if enough evidence is found to convict him, ever face any punishment?
Well, it's a matter of speculation who would be eventually the target of an investigation. A prosecutor will typically go where the evidence leads. But once arrest warrants are issued, a state that is not a party to the statute of the court may have no obligation to cooperate, but then that person cannot step foot outside of that country, in particular in European countries that are all members of the International Criminal Court, because there they will face arrest. And my experience, having worked as a UN prosecutor in respect of the former Yugoslavia, is that people who are in power today may not be in power tomorrow. And they could eventually face justice. When Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic showed up in The Hague in 2001, it was a scene that would have been unbelievable when the court was established some years earlier. So in respect of international justice, we have to have a long-term perspective. We have to investigate and issue arrest warrants and hope that the day will come when those individuals will face justice.
All right, Professor Akhavan, thank you.
Thank you.